Hey everyone, this is Nate Stroud again at the University of Redlands, and today we're going to be looking at the process of georeferencing, which is just the process of taking data that doesn't have coordinates. So something like an old scanned map that was made before computers, so the data itself doesn't have coordinates or coordinate system to it, and placing that on a map with geographic coordinates. So geo-registering it, pinning it to the Earth's surface so that we can use it with modern GIS data. So this lets us take advantage of thousands of historic maps and images so that we can use it with our GIS data today. Today we're going to be looking at this project of georeferencing and digitizing an old map of the Oklahoma Indian Territory. So just as a little background on this, as white settlers started moving out of the 13 colonies, started moving westward, they also started forcing native peoples out of their lands. And one solution for the quote unquote Indian problem was to kind of move all of the tribes into the area west of the Mississippi, which is actually thought to be uninhabitable anyway. So they continued to kind of push them west, and as white settlers started moving west of the Mississippi, then kind of continued getting smaller and smaller until we kind of settle on this area the area we now know as Oklahoma. And in 1889, the Indian Territory was established by the courts to kind of lock in this area for about 3 dozen tribes, all kind of consolidated in this space. And by 1907, we had the state of Oklahoma, and that area was dissolved as well. So we're going to be looking at an old map of that Indian Territory here in Oklahoma. So in the instructions, I ask you to go out and download this map here. So from the Library of Congress, which is the largest map collection in the world, a great place to find old maps. Just search, browse, and download, and you can get kind of full resolution scanned maps. Lots of great stuff here. So I have you kind of search here, and the one I'm looking for is this one right here. Notice it's actually got kind of the envelope for the map as well. Here, made by Rand McNally, along with the U.S. Census. All of these maps we can kind of get in here online and take a look. Beautiful maps, just high resolution scans. You can see the creases actually in that map. So obviously this is made pre-computers, pre-GIS. So now we want to download this and actually georeference it so we can kind of use it in modern GIS. So we'll go ahead and download that. All the instructions are in here. We're going to download that TIFF, and we'll put that into our Pro project. So I've already done that here. So go ahead and add that. And as soon as you add that map, and I may have named some of these differently than I asked you in the assignment, just to be clear on that. Go ahead and follow whatever names I have actually in the assignment. So you get a little warning there that says it doesn't have a coordinate system. This raster that we're adding to the map doesn't have a coordinate system. That's because it hasn't been georeferenced. And so just to kind of show here, if we zoom to this, we're going to see that it's sitting out here off the coast of West Africa. If you remember, this is kind of a special spot known as Null Island, which is at the intersection of the prime meridian and the equator at coordinates 0, 0. So it kind of sticks it there until we decide where to put it. So our goal here is to tell it that it's not here in the middle of the ocean, that it's actually here in present day Oklahoma. So the first step to georeferencing here is if we have a raster, we can go up to the Imagery tab and turn on georeferencing. First step is to just fit that image to the display. So I'll click that, and it just puts that image here in the map extent that we had. I also have a few steps in here to adjust the appearance because it can look a little funny when you first bring it in. Change the stretch type to none, and we'll change the resampling type to cubic, which will make that look a little bit easier to look at. Okay, so if we look at this scan map, you're going to see, if you look carefully, it kind of follows the current boundaries of Oklahoma. Take a look at this southern edge. I'll turn this off in a minute. You can look at it. Take a look at the southern edge, and take a look at this kind of change in angle over here at this eastern side. So you can see this southern edge here, and there's that kind of change in angle here. Arkansas. So we're not perfectly on here, so we can start kind of first just resizing it and kind of moving it. So first I'm going to scale it. So we're going to resize it. We get these handles here and kind of just size it until it looks about right. So I'm looking at the top border there and the southern border, something kind of like that. I'll move it over now. Kind of see it starting to get aligned there. Okay, it's nice. It turns it semi-transparent, so you can do that. And so yeah, I'm pretty happy with that at this point. And now we'll get in and add some control points to kind of snap it to real world coordinates. One thing about this image, about this map, about the territories there, is that you notice it doesnthis have like the panhandle that you usually associate with Oklahoma, right? It doesn't have this part. That was kind of it's listed as public lands. It was kind of a no man's land area, which was then incorporated as part of Oklahoma. So you're not going to see that part. It kind of just has this straight edge. So take a look at that. You can see that. So now I'm going to start here on the southern border, the georeferencing tab, and start adding control points. I'm just going to do a couple here, and then you guys can kind of continue it from there. So there's that kind of southern edge there. I'm going to look at where it kind of changes direction here by Fort Smith, right? You can see it here where the river comes through. This older map has rivers on it, so those are convenient to kind of georeference to. So kind of pick the middle there over here. See, it's kind of tilted a little bit now. I'll kind of look at one of these points here in the southern border. You can see that there. So again, I'm clicking on the historic map and then clicking where it is in current day. All right, so you guys kind of get the idea. I won't continue doing that. You're going to want to put 6 or more because I want you to be able to kind of play with some of these other transformations that we talked about in class, which just kind of defines how much the image can kind of bend and pull and morph to fit to those control points. So when you're done with that, get that as close as you can to the current, to line it up to kind of current coordinates, and you're going to hit save, which is going to save that georeferencing to the original TIFF file. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and we'll look at how to do that digitizing. All right, so we're back, and this is my georeference version of that map. You can see it's a pretty good decent fit here. One nice way to kind of see that is to use the swipe tool. So if we click on the layer we want to swipe away, we go over here to the Appearance tab, turn on Swipe, and then you can see my arrow. You can kind of swipe in different directions and see how well that fits. So let me kind of zoom in down here. We can see how well that fits. So yeah, not a perfect fit, but pretty good for what we're doing here. Let's see, can we? So this is where I put my control points. You can kind of see where those are. I used just a second order polynomial transformation there. It fits really well. Just to point out a couple things here that you're probably noticing when you georeference. You get this red X and the green, yellow X. So that is essentially where you placed the control point and where it's actually being displayed on the map and the difference between that. So that's basically your error. That's the it wasn't able to, with that transformation method, it wasn't able to kind of snap it to the exact location, and that distance is your error. If we look at our control point table here, we actually get that residual distance, and so you can kind of look at how well that's working for you. The different transformation methods will make that better or worse depending on which one you're using, but it might overstretch the image so that it's really good on those control points, but between the control points it's stretched too much. So you can it's kind of a balancing act. All right, so let's jump back over here and look at the editing piece here. So now I want you to digitize, so make polygons for each one of these nations, each one of these territories here. There's a few that I'm not asking you to do. Some of the smaller ones you can kind of skip over. Go ahead and do them if you'd like. They're listed in the assignment here. And at first glance, it seems like an awful lot of work I'm asking you to do because look at how detailed some of these boundaries are. I'm not really asking for a whole lot of detail in these. Some rough approximations are going to be just fine. And we're going to use some tools to really help us out and to make this a lot easier. So some of those tools you may not have used before, so I want to make sure that you know how to do those. So first of all, we just need to make a feature class for this, a new layer that we can draw those polygons into. So we're going to put that into our geodatabase. So I'm just going to make a new feature class. I had you name this Oklahoma Territories. I'll go ahead and make an alias for that too, with a space. It's going to be a polygon. We don't have any Z data. This isn't 3D data. Go on to the next step. We'll add a field called name, and in this field we'll just put whatever the text on the map is for that area. So we can do some labeling later. Go next. I want to use WGS 1984 for this. So go ahead and use that. If I have it added as in my favorites, which I would recommend doing. If you don't, you can kind of search for that, WGS 1984, and that is going to be a geographic world coordinate system. You can click that, you can click the little star here, add it to your favorites, so that'll be easier to find next time. I'll go next, and you can just hit next through here, or just hit finish, and it'll finish that up for you. So now we have a new empty feature class that we can use to start editing. So let's go ahead and start editing those polygons. I'll start down here in the Choctaw Nation. Right. So yeah, this boundary follows the river, and it's really complex. Again, I'm not asking for a lot of detail here. So we want to be on the editing ribbon here. Go to create. We want to create an Oklahoma territory. I'm going to start with this polygon tool right here. Now, polygon tools, you remember, usually you kind of click, 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 click for each vertex, right? You can imagine that clicking for each vertex along here would be a little tricky. So we're actually we'll start doing the regular kind of clicking vertex mode and kind of switch midstream into a streaming mode, which allows us to kind of just draw it naturally to sketch it. So I'm going to do this nice straight edge here up to the river. Okay, so we have that first edge here. And then I'm going to switch, use this drop down here and switch into the streaming mode. Okay, so now I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to zoom out so I can see the whole thing, because I'm going to have to kind of like draw this whole thing, so I want to be able to see it in one view. And click and then just start drawing it. It's just following my mouse. So, I'm doing this pretty quickly. It doesn't have to be perfect. Kind of running into my keyboard here. Definitely recommend having a mouse for this. Using a trackpad is going to be tough. So when we get back over here to this nice straight edge, I'm just going to click to kind of stop that edge. And actually, let's switch over kind of back to this regular line mode, right? So now I'm just going to go ahead and click down here at this, straight down this line, switch back over to tracing, and we'll do this southern border here. So it makes it a little semi-transparent, which is convenient, because you can kind of see through the map. Yeah, I'm not doing a great job, but do your best. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and then double click to finish. Okay, so there's my polygon there. We need to add the attribute for that, the name attribute. So I click up here on attributes, which gives me this panel. There's the name, and this is the Choctaw Nation. And I'm just reading that off here. Okay. Something to kind of look at here, we can, if it's helpful, remember you can change the transparency here on the appearance tab. We can use the transparency slider. You could go in here and change the symbology so that maybe it only has an outline. Maybe make a nice thick outline so we can see it in a different color that we can definitely know is not the color of the map. You can use the swipe tool to kind of hide it and see how well you're fitting. Lots of different ways to kind of symbolize the layer so that it's easier to sketch. Whatever works for you is great. I'm actually going to go ahead and put the original. Well, I won't use the original, but something kind of similar. But I will make it a little semi-transparent here, so you can see through it. Okay. So now I want to do this Cherokee Nation one here, and you might think of an issue here that do I need to kind of match? If I draw this, do I need to match this exactly? Because I do want these to be coincident boundaries, which means they kind of snap to each other. They're puzzle pieces that fit together. But we have a couple different ways to deal with that. So let me show you that. So first of all, make sure we have snapping turned on because we want to be snapping to this edge. And this time, instead of using this regular polygon tool, we're going to use this Autocomplete polygon. So what this does is you basically can draw one polygon, line it up to another polygon, and it'll autocomplete one edge for you. So I'm going to start here, click, so it kind of snapped there. Follow this line up. This is pretty straightforward. I am letting you kind of skip over these nations up here, just kind of make that part of the Cherokee Nation. That's fine. You can do them if you'd like, just to save some time. You can skip them. So I'm just doing this edge here, nice and easy. It does kind of go around here. Remember, if I can hold down the C key, so I can pan, it changes the mode from editing to panning. If we need to move around while we're editing, I'll come down here, okay. And now when we get down to the southern edge that we want to snap to, we can just double click on a point on that line. And you'll see that it made this southern edge for us. And those fit perfectly together, this one and this one. Okay, so that's nice and convenient. Makes doing these a lot easier because we can use that tool. I'll show you one other way to do that same thing. And this time we'll go ahead and look at this Creek Nation. Let me give this the attribute here. So this is the Cherokee Nation. And this time I'll use tracing to trace around this border here instead of the autocomplete. So I'm going to start with the regular polygon tool here. Click here, kind of just click around this edge here. And this southern boundary is a little complicated, so I'll switch into the streaming mode, follow the river, right? And now I'm going to click when I snap onto this other polygon here. Now I'm going to switch from streaming into trace, right? So that's in this same drop down here. So there's the streaming mode and there's trace. So now if I click on this edge, I can just trace over that, and it's kind of doing it for me. I'm just kind of moving the mouse along that that polygon, and it did it for me. So we'll go ahead and name that Creek Nation. And remember to save your edits. Click this big save button here on the edit ribbon, not this one, this one. And then just kind of keep drawing those polygons. Again, they don't need to be perfect. You kind of see the level of detail I'm looking for there, the way that I did it. I have the list of the ones I'm asking you to edit so that you can, to digitize, so you can kind of check off this list as you go along, make sure you got them all. Once you're done with all that, I want you to turn on labeling. You can do it before. You don't have to be done to turn on the labeling, but I do want you to turn on labeling for this with the name so you can see which ones you have. Lastly, I want you to submit this as a project package, and you might remember you can do that from the Share tab up here. We're going to click this map. We're going to make sure that this is set to save package as a file. I want you to save this to your project folder, just so it's easier to find. And I give you the name. I think I have you name it Oklahoma Territories, and that just makes an MPKX file. You need to give the summary and tags. You can really use anything you want in there. Package that up. That'll make that new file, and that's what I want you to upload to Moodle to submit today. So good luck with that. Hopefully it's kind of an interesting project. I think it's pretty interesting, and a good example of using georeferencing and digitizing on some old historic maps. Good luck, guys. Thanks.